2019 Volkswagen Jetta First Drive review. Vertical bar, more style, not much more excitement. The 2019 Jetta is a car Volkswagen really needs to get right. Last year, it was VW's best-selling model in America by a wide margin. And although the new Tiguan and Atlas have been propelled ahead so far this year by America's crossover obsession, the Jetta is still VW's best-selling car, beating the Passat and the Golf. Put simply, the new Jetta has got to be good. The little VW does make a good first impression. Not that it was a difficult task, but the new Jetta is far more interesting to look at than the old model. But it's a handsome and interesting enough car even when compared with its contemporaries. The hexagonal grille is unique to VW and is a welcome break from the boring rectangle of the outgoing model. The headlights get special attention in both basic reflector LED style and projector LED style. The reflector units have geometric lenses and the projectors have a sleek daytime running light design. The hood, flanks, and tail all have sharp creases that add visual interest to the otherwise conventional body style. The interior is also a big improvement over the drab old Jetta. Gone is the flat dash with rectangular vents and zero design inspiration. Instead, the new Jetta gets a geometric design, themed around hexagons and octagons. One large geometric shape envelopes the dash from the left side driver's vent to the infotainment system. Everything in this section is canted toward the driver for a neat cockpit feel. The downside, though, is that the infotainment controls are a bit hard to reach for the passenger. The interior benefits from a more diverse mix of plastics with better grains and feel. There are still a few cheap feeling plastics to be found, but they are kept as far out of the way of hands and eyes as possible. The instrument cluster gets a nice update with more detailed analog dials on base models, and the VW digital cockpit screen comes on top level models. The infotainment is just as easy to use as in any other VW with a responsive touchscreen and easy to tap virtual buttons. The climate control relies on simple dials and buttons, whether it's a manual or dual zone automatic system. The Jetta's interior isn't perfect, though. One particular disappointment is that, despite the car being longer, wider, and taller than the old model, it actually lost a bit of space inside. Legroom is tighter front and rear, and there's less headroom in the back. The trunk is 1.6 cubic feet smaller too. There is more shoulder room front and rear, though, and the interior specs are still very close to those of one of the key segment leaders, the Honda Civic. One other gripe, the seats are on the flat side, lacking much lumbar support or bolstering, and the leatherette found in everything but the base S trim isn't the greatest. A sharp new wrapper doesn't necessarily make a good car. It needs a solid powertrain and suspension to bring everything together. In the Jetta's case, its mechanical bits are average at best. For 2019, VW reduced the Jetta's engine options to a single turbocharged 1.4-litre 4-cylinder producing 147 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. The horsepower level is only on par with entry-level compacts, but the torque matches compacts with larger optional engines. The feel of the power plant backs up that odd duality. It feels plenty perky in town with all of that down-low grunt. But when hustling up on ramps and trying to pass, the Jetta feels sluggish. Most Jettas will be coupled to an 8-speed automatic, and it is indeed a traditional automatic with a torque converter. It's a perfectly serviceable transmission. It shifts smoothly, which, since it sometimes does a couple of shifts to find the right gear, is much appreciated. Putting it in sport mode makes it more willing to hold gears and rev almost to redline. The manual mode works very nicely too. It's not lightning fast like a VW DSG gearbox, but it shifts promptly and smoothly. It's a shame that there's no Jetta available with shift paddles, because manually shifting the 8-speed is the most enjoyable way to drive the Jetta. Surprisingly, Volkswagen will continue offering the Jetta with a manual transmission, albeit on the base S trim level. We did have the opportunity to drive a pre-production model with the transmission, and it really feels like an afterthought. The shifter action is long, rubbery and a bit notchy. The clutch is light, but with reasonable feedback.